because the person who has shared this question with me, I believe this is what is their intent to ask this question. Now, what does 74 reads? 74 reads like this: determination of tax pertaining to the period up to financial year this. Now, because now you have 74A. So main part is this: determination of tax not paid or short paid or erroneously refunded. Now, interestingly, when we are reading this erroneously refunded, it is linked to determination of tax. So I read this like this: determination of tax not paid, short paid, or erroneously refunded. So it is like this: it is determination of tax erroneously refunded. And then it says, or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized by reason of fraud, willful misstatement, representation of fact. Now, why I'm emphasizing this? Because what is the query? I'll put it across. Let us say I have made an export. Export is under LUT. Whenever I make export under LUT, I do not charge any GST on the invoice. And then after my 1 and 3B everything is filed, I apply separately for refund. When I apply for this refund, the refund undergoes an adjudication process whereby the officer checks all the details. The officer gets all my 2A list, all my lists relating to invoices, purchase invoices. It matches whether everything is eligible. And only after that, the refund is passed. Now, let us say after my refund is passed, after a few months, there is some internal audit or review in the department, and they find or they conclude that this particular refund was not maintainable. One option was that they could have gone for revision, but instead they decide to issue a show cause notice under Section 74, asking me to return back this refund, which according to them is erroneous. Now, the question which I understand, which is an interpretational question, is that where this refund was pertaining to accumulated input tax credit, whether as per the language, the refund can be demanded by way of notice under Section 74. Yes. You are on mute, Shefali ji. Shefali ji, you are on mute.
Well, I have not researched on this particular point, but what I believe that when I'm talking about tax, input tax credit is also a type of tax, right? Because the purpose of giving it as a credit is only to ascertain the value added feature of GST. So instead of paying tax on complete 100 rupees, what we do, we adjust the tax we have paid already at the time of purchase. That's how it take birth, right? Input tax credit जनरेट कैसे हो रहा है, पैदा कहाँ से हो रहा है कि या तो मैं दो चीज कर सकती थी, मतलब टैक्सेशन में, या तो मैं ये करती कि जो सबसे एंड में सेल कर रहा है वो टोटल अमाउंट पे मेरे को टैक्स पे कर दे, या फिर मैंने क्या किया कि चेन में जितने भी लोग टैक्स पे करते जा रहे थे उसका मैं एक एडजस्टमेंट क्रिएट करते चले गई, सो दैट एवरी पर्सन इन द चेन इज जस्ट लाइबल टू पे ऑन देयर ऑन पर्टिकुलर वैल्यू एडिशन. सो मेरे को लगता है कि इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट इज ऑल्सो ए फॉर्म ऑफ टैक्स. सो इफ आई
Great.
एम गेटिंग फंड ऑफ इट, तो उसके लिए भी 74 का नोटिस दे कैन इशू.
So
और
within
मैंने
panel, yeah, within panel we have a difference of opinion because I think otherwise. I believe
ओके.
tax, this word is used from the perspective of Section 9, that wherever any liability is created under Section 9, whether under forward charge, reverse charge, that is what it means as tax. And that is why we have a separate part in this Section 73 and 74 both, which says input tax credit wrongly availed, utilized, etc. So my interpretation is different. I believe that this type of refund cannot be demanded back by issuing notice under 74. So it's great that we have a divided view. So let us take views of Avinash Bhaiya, how he is
Any
interpreting
first,
this point and what are his take on this.
I would suggest first you both deliberate on this.
No,
That
so
is,
we
this is
have
very important.
yeah. So my take is this, that when I'm reading the word tax, it is from the perspective of Section 9. That is, wherever any tax is leviable under Section 9, either 1, 3, 4, or 5, that is only what is partaking the nature of tax. So wherever in the law the word tax is used, it would be seen from the perspective of Section 9, that is a liability created, or maybe even Section 10, where it is under composition. But if let us say I am a recipient, where you are my supplier, Shefali ji has raised an invoice on me, Shefali ji has charged some tax. Because if I am reading, ma'am, by your point of view, then there is another question. Let us say you have levied tax at the rate of 12%, which I have taken as credit. And tomorrow it is found that this amount is short levied by you. It should have been 18%. Then can that 6% be demanded from me? If I take your interpretation that even the input tax rate is a tax, then I even fit as a recipient, I will fit even in this particular case because the tax would have been then short paid. Which tax? The tax which I have taken as input tax. I believe so. This will be my interpretation is that this particular point will be read from the perspective of levy created under Section 9. So once you have levied a tax, whether it is correct, wrong, from my perspective, I am not liable under Section 74 to determine the correctability of the tax. Even if it is short, even if it is wrong, let us say even the intra classification is wrong. For me, it does not have the character of tax to attract 74. Yes, once I take the credit, from my side, the accessibility will be only with view of Section 16, 17, and wherever required 18. And that is where only the notice can be issued. This is my understanding of this particular point. Shefali ji, you may counter and then maybe Bhaiya can.
Maybe my reply will be too theoretical because, as I already said, I never saw this issue earlier. But what I believe, why a levy section exists? Tax is ultimately on the final recipient. Levy means instead of going and asking the tax from each and every person who is actually liable to pay the tax, I put a levy on some people where the concentration of my taxable event is there. So our taxable event was supply. So concentration of supply is at supplier. So my first levy is at supplier. But the levy is at recipient also. So in some cases, when I saw that my, the concentration of my taxable event shifted from the supplier to the recipient, means where the recipients are scattered and small. Sorry, recipients are bigger and the suppliers are scattered and small, like in the case of GTA. So one company may be taking services of multiple GTAs. The government says that now tax levy will be shifted to the recipient. They will be paying the less and they will be taking the input tax credit of it. So that was my view that ultimately input tax credit is also a form of tax when you are taking ineligible refund of it. And I will say that even if this thing that the input tax credit is wrongly availed, if even if it is not written here, availed or utilized, even if only this part is written that tax short paid, you don't even need to write about input tax credit. When I illegally or incorrectly utilizing any input tax credit for the payment of my output tax, it means it is short paid. So you don't even need to write this thing particularly. अगर आपने वैसे भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मान लो 100 रुपए के टैक्स को यूटिलाइज पे करने के लिए मैंने 80 रुपए का गलत इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट यूटिलाइज किया है, आप यहाँ पे मत लिखो वो टैक्स तब भी शॉर्ट पेड है क्योंकि जैसे वो पे होना चाहिए था जिस चीज से इन एलिजिबल अमाउंट से पेड हो रहा है, तो इट्स एक्चुअली शॉर्ट पेड. तो आईटीसी इज ऑल्सो ए फॉर्म ऑफ टैक्स. बट ठीक है, अब हम लोग मिलके
And
की साइड ला देते हैं.
yes. In fact, taking the same analogy, I believe since it is different, that is why they have purposefully written. In fact, what you are trying to say, I'm taking the same analogy. अगर वैसा होता कि मैंने गलत आईटीसी यूटिलाइज करके जो टैक्स भरा है वो शॉर्ट पेड ही है, तो मुझे ये वाला अलग से ऐड करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती कि आई विल इश्यू शो कॉज नोटिस वेयर ITC is wrongly availed and utilized, because then that would have already been covered in short payment. In fact, a wrong availment and utilization is separate from short payment, and that is in fact the same analogy. Short payment only deals with Section 9. So Section 9 में RCM आता है, तो जहाँ पे I have to pay tax under RCM, first I have to pay, then 74 is applicable for short payment or non-payment. But when I have to take the ITC of the RCM, then it no more remains as tax. It becomes ITC, and that will be covered in 73, 74 only when it is wrongly availed or utilized. This is my understanding, but I think we are having a good interaction. But I think we should conclude by taking Avinash Bhaiya's view so that we can proceed with other issues.
No, nothing can be concluded out of this discussion because even I cannot say something strongly. But yes, one thing I can say, or let me ask a question to myself and to all of you. It's talking about erroneously refunded. What is erroneously refunded? That means you have claimed something as a refund, which otherwise was not refundable. So what is that component made of? Is it a tax? Is it an ITC? What it is?
Can be
Shefali ma'am, Vishal bhai.
It can be anything, but as Vishal is saying that in this particular part of the section, they have used the word tax. And tax के बाद में there is something else, and after that they have used this word. वो समझ गए विशाल जी का जो
Yes,
था?
I'm linking this with determination. I'm reading it like this: determination of tax not paid, determination of tax short paid, and determination of tax erroneously. So it is tax which is erroneously refunded, not the ITC which is erroneously refunded. This is how I'm reading the section. So it means they are covering
So-
erroneous refund, but only of the tax portion.
Okay. So this brings me to raising another question to myself, that if an input tax credit is being availed and you are saying that the moment it gets availed, it becomes ITC, it is no more tax. Right?
At least under this section, when I'm reading it like this, short paid, not paid,
Correct.
and tax erroneously refunded. Here, yeah.
Correct. So that means ITC will not fall within the purview of the tax. It will fall independently as an RTC wrongly availed or utilized. And that can be demanded under section 74, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
What I understand is there is a concept which says that the nature of words change the character and meaning with the other words which is being followed or by which it starts. And you all are aware about that. Adjustum generis.
Yes.
That is something which is very important. And yes, to an extent, yes, your argument will survive. But whether that can be the intent of the lawmakers. See, what is Rule 89? 89 talks about the refund of input tax credit, which is accumulated. Specifically, it talks about two. One, with regards to the situation wherein the accumulation is on account of inverted duty structure. And the other one is when you are exporting without payment of tax. These two are situations. So if I borrow your argument, then whatever ITC is being accumulated, if that ITC is not correct, say for example, it is alleged that you have simply claimed an ITC which was not there. It is not an ITC under section 16, it is not general. And you have claimed it as a refund. What you have done is you have shown, आपने 1 crore रुपए का purchase दिखा दिया अविनाश से. Avinash is never existing. Or Avinash was existing, but he has never issued those invoices to you. वो 1 crore रुपए आपने 18 लाख रुपए का उस पे टैक्स था, 18 lakh rupees का आपने क्रेडिट ले लिया. And so showing that as an export, you are claiming that 18 lakh rupees as a refund. Now tell me, under which provision of the law, this 18 lakhs which you have been wrongly claiming as a refund can be recovered?
My understanding is that when we are filing the RFD 01, that itself is an adjudication. So my main point is, can they raise under 74? Because here we are discussing with perspectives to 74. Already they have done all the assessment at the time of RFD 01. So after making one step of, it is entire adjudication only. They check everything and they assess everything, including the eligibility of ITC, the correctness of the ITC, and only then they allow us the refund. So once that first stage of adjudication is done, the main question is vis-a-vis 74. Can 74 still be attracted for the same thing again when they have already done once? Or should it then go for revision if they feel that their officer was incorrect in passing the refund?
But erroneously refunded. I mean, refund will only happen. I mean, of course, one can refund claim for the taxes paid a year.
Pramod ji, the argument of Vishal Bhai is, कि हम RFD 1 भरते हैं तो एक सेपरेट पूरा प्रोसीजर लेट डाउन है लॉ में.
Right.
वो पूरा एडजुडिकेट होता है. वो एडजुडिकेशन होने के बाद आप रिफंड देते हो. अभी आपने पूरा एडजुडिकेशन कर लिया, उसके बाद आपने रिफंड दिया, तो क्या अब आप ये बोल सकते हो कि अगर वो रिफंड मैंने गलत दे दिया, अगर मैंने रिफंड दे दिया गलत, तो आप फिर 74 की प्रोसीडिंग स्टार्ट कर सकते हो, राइट विशाल? दिस इज व्हाट यू आर सेइंग.
मेन पॉइंट इज दैट. यस.
सो अच्छा, चलिए मैं आपके क्वेश्चन को आगे बढ़ाता हूँ कि चलिए अब आरएफडी का प्रोसेस पूरा कर लिया, तो इसके बाद अब उसको रिफंड वापस लेना हो जो आपने फ्रॉडुलेंटली ले लिया, तो क्या प्रोविजन है लॉ में?
I believe it is a revision of the officer's adjudication, that is RFD.
Under which section?
A section of revision of orders of officer.
No, which section? This is 108.
I don't recall the number.
This is 108.
Okay.
Let us read 108.
Yes.
And this is the purpose of such kind of sessions ना कि हम भी
Yes.
पढ़ें साथ में सीखें.
विशाल आपके पास अगर है ना लॉ वो
है
एक्ट
मेरे
है
पास.
ओपन करो
Actually
ना.
मैं सोचा हूँ screen change हो
I'm
गई.
reading. Don't share. Subject to the provisions of section 121 and any rules made thereunder, the revisional authority may on his own motion or upon information received by him or a request from the commissioner of the state tax or the commissioner of union territory tax call for and examine the record of any proceedings, and if he considers that any decision or order passed under this act or under the state goods and services or union territory act by any subordinate officer is erroneous in so far as it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, okay, and is illegal or improper or has not taken into account certain material facts. So this is more or less in line with section 263 of the income tax act, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
ठीक है,
263.
अब second subsection 2 पढ़ते हैं. The revisional authority shall not exercise any power under subsection 1 if the order has been subject to an appeal. अब इस केस में ये नहीं होगा because वो refund लेने के बाद appeal थोड़ी file करेगा. The period specified under subsection 2 of 107 has not yet expired. मीनिंग देयर बाई ऑर्डर करने के बाद जो रिवीजन का उनके पास 6 महीने का समय अपील फाइल करने का. डिपार्टमेंट ने अगर अपील का पीरियड अगर वो लैप्स नहीं हुआ तो वो रिकवर नहीं कर सकते, तो ये रिवीजन नहीं कर सकते. The order has already been taken for revision under this section at an earlier stage. That may not be the case. Order has been passed in exercise of the powers under subsection 1, which is again not the case. Provided that the revision order may pass an order under subsection 1 on any point which has not been raised or decided in an appeal referred to in clause A of subsection 2 before the expiry of a period of 1 year from the date of the order. In such appeal or before the expiry of a period of 3 years referred to in clause B of that subsection, whichever is later. So that will not impact us. So in short, there are 3 limbs, if I can just point out that. One is, if it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. Certainly it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue because you have claimed a bogus refund or an illegal refund. Further it says, and is illegal or improper. This talks about the order which is to be revised is illegal. The order is not illegal. Order is not illegal. How you can say that the order is illegal? Your conduct was illegal. You have claimed a refund which otherwise was not eligible. You have submitted certain documents which were found to be bogus at a later point in time. When he was processing those documents, he was not expected to be God. He was not expected to be an investigating officer. So therefore, he has processed it. Now, order is legal and proper.
But I think it is also or improper. Na? So this will not make it improper if later on some new facts come to light.
No. Improper, that means in the procedure. Now let us read it again. It says, in so far as it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue and is illegal or improper, meaning thereby either of the two has to be there. Prejudicial to the interest of revenue and illegal, or prejudicial to the interest of revenue and improper.
Correct.
Both are not there, as per my limited understanding. You cannot allege कि उसने refund दे दिया था क्योंकि अविनाश चोर था, अविनाश ने गलत डॉक्यूमेंट्स दे दिए थे, उसने रिफंड दे दिया, तो वो उसने इलीगल या improper order दे दिया. No, unless that order is really illegal or improper. So therefore, he is not in a position to revise, as per me.
An appeal? There is another option.
Yes, certainly appeal can be done. Appeal 1072 is always open. But 6 महीने निकल जाए, 6 महीने तो पता ही नहीं चलेगा ना क्या काम करके चला गया अविनाश. वो तो 2 साल के बाद पता चलेगा. तो मैं इसको ऐसे पढ़ता हूँ. I think you got my answer.
Yeah.
मैं इसको ऐसे पढ़ता हूँ कि adjustum juris लगेगा इसमें. और adjustum generis लगने के बाद अगर मैं इसको ऐसे पढ़ूं कि determination of tax not paid, determination of tax short paid, determination of tax erroneously refunded. Now question arises, जो आप बोल रहे हो section 9 के reference से, you have claimed ITC which otherwise is a tax not paid by you but indirectly paid by you and now claiming as an ITC, because other than tax you cannot claim ITC. आप केवल टैक्स का ही इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ले सकते हो सर. अगर मेरे को फॉर एग्जांपल मैं जीआईडीसी वाले मैटर्स की बात करता हूँ, इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट कॉर्पोरेशन, आफ्टर दी हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट, अगर किसी ने टैक्स भरा है, अभी कोर्ट ये बोलता है कि इस पे तो टैक्स लगेगा ही नहीं, तो अगर किसी ने 5%, 12%, 18% टैक्स भरा है, तो it is not a tax. And if it is not a tax, you cannot claim input tax credit. Meaning thereby, input tax credit can be claimed only of tax. So therefore, I have claimed the credit of tax, and I have claimed that as a refund. So technically, that was the tax which I have paid, which got converted in an ITC, and which was supposed to be paid in exports, which I have not paid, and I have claimed that as a refund because of the policy of the government. So it is nothing but a tax. ये मेरा रीडिंग है. I don't know, but this was a good discussion. Very good. मजा आया.
Great.
Really
और
interesting.
see, as a lawyer, we can read anyways. At
Yes.
any, अभी मेरे कोई client गलत करके आएगा और मुझे विशाल का argument लेना होगा, तो I'll take that argument also because that will also help me. I'll confuse the court saying section 9 है, इसमें आप पढ़िए, 89 पढ़िए, you go and read the ITC provisions and all, and certainly I'll never try to establish that tax. See, I say मुझे 2 लाख रुपए का पेमेंट करना है और मेरे पास 1,50,000 रुपए का आईटीसी पड़ा है, तो मैं टैक्स का 2 लाख रुपए का पेमेंट करता हूँ. टैक्स का 2 लाख रुपए का पेमेंट करता हूँ कैसे? 1.5 लाख रुपए से और 50,000 रुपए. तो आई पे टैक्स by way of tax because there cannot be a tax on tax.
Right.
And therefore that ITC also is a tax.
Yes.
And similarly, if that tax is getting refunded erroneously by way of my conduct, erroneously refunded will not be very broad. I would say ये बहुत narrower term है मेरे हिसाब से, क्योंकि they will have to establish that there was a suppression, there was an intent to take the refund erroneously. गलती से रिफंड आ गया, वो इसमें कवर नहीं होगा सर. आपको ये बताना पड़ेगा कि आपने फर्जी इनवॉइस लिए, वो फर्जी इनवॉइस लेके आपने उसको एक्सपोर्ट किया. इनवॉइस लिया आपने 100 रुपए के, आपने 500 रुपए में इनवॉइस दिखाया, एक्सपोर्ट दिखाया, आपने ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक लिया और 100 रुपए पूरा रिफंड ले लिया. So that shows the intention that the refund was taken or the refund of tax was taken with the malified intention of, let's say, evading the tax or maybe taking a refund which was not eligible. Then certainly, as per me, that will fall into 74.
Great. Now let us delve to the other part of our session, क्योंकि 74 के major issues हमने cover कर लिए. That is on the fake invoicing part. So I'll take one question which is very lengthy, so I'm reading out from one of my associates sent to us. I'm reading the question. We can then make a brief of that. In case where a supplier has been declared as NGTP pursuant to an inquiry, can the recipient be denied the entire ITC solely on this ground, despite having undertaken genuine transaction with such a supplier? So firstly, I'm understanding from the facts that my client, who is a recipient, is having a genuine transaction with a supplier who was later on declared as NGTP, and maybe his registration is cancelled, maybe suo moto, backdated, whatever. But at least I am claiming one thing, because there is another side of this, that even I know that my client has done the bogus billing with this particular supplier. But in the facts of the case which I am given, my client has done a genuine transaction, and it further says my client, that is a recipient, possesses all requisite documentary evidences, which includes tax invoice, e-way bill, payment proof, transport documents, even substantiating the actual movement of goods and payment of consideration. However, at every stage, including appellate proceedings, submissions are being disregarded on the mere premises that since the supplier did not procure goods genuinely, his outward supplies cannot be considered genuine, so my inward will be ingenuine. So given this approach, what is the legal recourse and how can we defend this particular matter? I think this is a very burning issue, and it is happening across. I think in last 3 months the department has specifically targeted all NGTP cases, because wherever I am talking to anyone, out of 10 they have now 6 cases of NGTP. Earlier it was 6 to 7 cases were only mismatch. Now it has suddenly shifted to NGTP and bogus billing. So this is a very contentious issue. Chef Ali ji, I would like to first take your views on this.
See, first of all, the evidence I have are very important. The first thing is, say supplier is non-existent or supplier is like his registration is cancelled. So what I understand that there can be different kind of cases. In some of the cases, department like they will be like specifically in Delhi, they will just call you, and if you are not referring to their call, you are not accepting their call, they will
Consider you NGTP. Yes.
है ना,
Yes.
आप उतने में ही आपका उन्होंने कैंसिल कर दिया. Then
Hmm.
second thing is that you actually filed the returns, the supplier filed the returns and paid the taxes, and still his registration is being cancelled retrospectively. So ये दो genuine stage हो गए. Third stage is he never filed any return, right? He that particular input tax credit never reflected into your returns. If it was reflecting and he was filing the GST at PB also, so I have a kind of protection. The tax is actually paid to the government. That's an important thing. ठीक है, अब लेट अस टेक अनदर केस जहां पे उसने कभी कोई फाइल भी नहीं की रिटर्न, कोई टैक्स भी नहीं पे किया, बट यू स्टिल हैव द एविडेंसेस. तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा ना, अलग अलग प्रोविजंस मेरे ऊपर एप्लीकेबल हो रहा है. तो कभी मेरे को रिफ्लेक्ट ही नहीं हुआ और आपने उसके बाद भी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट लिया है, तब तो आपको वैसे ही डिफेक्टिव हो गया. सेकंड थिंग इज ही वाज ऑलवेज फाइलिंग द रिटर्न्स. तो यहाँ पे फिर मेरे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट, यहाँ पे माई एविडेंस विल हैव मोर वेटेज because I am complying with the other provisions also. Then there is another thing, say supplier के statements and supplier ने blanket statement में लिख दिया कि I never purchased any kind of goods or I never supplied any goods to like any of my recipients. अब यहाँ पे मेरे लिए सिचुएशन थोड़ी सी ग्रीव है क्योंकि उसने तो बोल दिया कि भाई मैंने तो आज तक कभी कोई गुड्स परचेज किया ही नहीं है. But if I am genuine and I am showing them the complete thing, the complete chain of it, that I purchased the goods, there is the evidences relating to the transportation of particular goods, that I also sold it to the other parties. राइट, आपने परचेज किया तो आपने सेल भी किया होगा उसको कुछ यूज करके, मैन्युफैक्चर करके, वट एवर. तो इफ आई हैव कंप्लीट चेन एंड आई कैन सब्सटेंशिएट, तो हमें डेफिनेटली बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए. विशाल जी, इन सारे केसेस में पता है जो मेन प्रॉब्लम है, प्रूव करना तो एक अलग प्रॉब्लम है, बट जो एक मेंटल हेरेसमेंट है इवन फॉर ए जेन्युइन बायर, दिस इज द वर्स्ट थिंग. अभी जिसने इनजेन्युइन किया होता है उसके पास तो एविडेंस भी उल्टे ज्यादा मिल जाते हैं, दे आर इवन मोर प्रिपेयर्ड. बट जो जेन्युइन है, बिकॉज दे सी इफ आई एम मेकिंग अ जेन्युइन परचेज फ्रॉम यू, I will not think of creating a lot of documentary evidences because मैं तो अपने नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस में कर रही हूँ. जैसे 10 लोगों से परचेज करते हुए 2 एविडेंस आ रहे हैं, वैसे ही आपसे आ रहे हैं, है ना. बट सो वो ये कि आपका सप्लायर का सेग्रीगेशन यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है कि सप्लायर आपका कैसा है. अगर उसने फिर भी रिटर्न फाइल कर रखी है, टैक्स पे कर रखा है, तो मेरा केस स्ट्रॉन्ग बनता है. उसने कभी रिटर्न नहीं फाइल की तो आप अदरवाइज भी आपका इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट अंडर रिस्क है ही ऑलरेडी, राइट. और अगर उसने आप पर्टिकुलर स्टेटमेंट्स दी हुई हैं, but there are chances that even if he said that all of my sales were like in genuine, but there are chances that he may have sold some goods to some people, and even if he was not having the genuine invoices, but मैंने हो सकता है लोकल मार्केट से विदाउट इनवॉइस भी परचेज करके सेल किया हो. समटाइम्स दैट आल्सो हैपेंस कि कुछ बायर्स क्या करते हैं कि जिनसे गुड्स लेते हैं उनसे इनवॉइस नहीं लेते, जिनसे इनवॉइस लेते हैं उनसे गुड्स नहीं लेते. तो ये बात बिल्कुल सही होगी जो उसने स्टेटमेंट दिया कि मैंने तो जो दिखाए हैं इनवॉइसेस मेरे सारे फेक हैं, बट इट इज पॉसिबल कि उन्होंने फ्रॉम सम अदर बायर्स उन्होंने मतलब गुड्स परचेज किया हो विदाउट इनवॉइस, और यहाँ से मैंने इनवॉइसेस लिए विदाउट गुड्स. तो सेल तो मेरे गुड्स की फिर भी मतलब ट्रेल तो मेरा तब भी क्रिएट होता है कि मैंने यहाँ से परचेज किया और वहां से आपको सप्लाई किया. So that will totally be depending on the evidences and how they are, I mean, like how they are combined with the facts and presented. That will play a very important part in it.
Great. I would like to add a couple of more pointers besides this, and then maybe Avinash Bhaiya can add his final conclusion. So I also categorize these cases into two categories. One, whether the documents that I have, they substantiate my transaction. And here, when I mean document, I mean also the document which is tracking the movement, which is nowadays the RFID that is available from the NHI. Because I have seen that many times now department is taking those particular data as the basis for saying that, okay, even if you have prepared e-way bill, even if there is all documentary trail, but your vehicle never crossed that particular toll and they have the evidence. So once I can substantiate all these things, I can substantiate the movement and the delivery of goods. Point number one. Second, as you mentioned, that wherever I am able to further corroborate with my outward supply, that okay, if you are challenging my input supply, then what about my outward supply? You are accepting my outward supply. If I have not have input, then you should have also not asked me to pay tax on the output. Then my output also should be refunded. So without input, there can be no output. So I think if we can corroborate these two things, then my understanding is that yes, our case is defendable. The second most important point where I can see the pain point in the query that I have received, that is because I understand that today the department internally is having some sort of what you can say some sort of internal memo or something whereby it has been given a strict instruction that all these cases have to be adjudged adversely. And I think that is why even at the appellate level, no officer is taking a chance of even considering all these submissions.
Right,
Now,
right, right.
how we can take this ahead whenever the tribunal comes, and maybe at the high court, whether we can challenge any of these actions in writ to give our client the relief. I think Avinash Bhaiya can throw more light on the writ part or the technical challenge part.
What I understand is this is all factual disputes. And for factual disputes, High Court is not going to entertain. If there is, unless there is some question of law which is involved, I don't think that the High Court will take any or provide any relief on this. Because वो non genuine taxpayer था नहीं था, who is going to determine that? वो ऑफिसर भी नहीं कर पाएगा जिसने ये इन्वेस्टिगेशन किया. It is only the adjudicating authority who has to do it. So you need to appear before that authority. Discharge of burden of proof उसके ऊपर है, authority के ऊपर. He will have to say. If it is a case of ITC, then obviously you have to discharge. You need to discharge the burden of proof. But मैं एक चीज जरूर शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि हम बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली सुनते हैं वर्ड फेक इनवॉइस. अगर कोई व्यक्ति रजिस्टर्ड है प्रॉपरली और वो इनवॉइस एज पर रूल्स इशू करता है, तो दैट कैन नेवर बी टर्म्ड एज अ फेक इनवॉइस. It can never be termed as a fake invoice. The transaction may be a transaction on which the ITC is not available. For example, जैसा शेफाली मैम ने बोला कि आप खरीदते हो A से और बिल लेते हो B से, तो यहाँ पे जो B के पास से इनवॉइस आ रहा है वो इनवॉइस प्रॉपर है. It is not a fake invoice, and whosoever is saying it is a fake invoice is absolutely bad at the outset itself. But yes, this transaction is a transaction on which the ITC will not be eligible because you have not received the goods from the person who has issued the invoice. But show me where it is written in the law. Show me the instance where it is written in the law that law says you should have received the goods. I have received the goods. You should have an invoice. I have an invoice. Where does it say that the person from whom you have received the invoice, he should be the same person who has supplied the goods to you? It is nowhere written. So if we are able to corroborate कि जिससे मैंने इनवॉइस लिया है उसी व्यक्ति के डायरेक्शन से वो गुड्स मेरे पास आए हैं, भले वो किसी दूसरे व्यक्ति ने बेचे हैं, it will not taint my transaction and therefore ITC will be eligible. So this is just an example. इसके अलावा बहुत सारे ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस हो सकते हैं because non-genuine taxpayer is not defined in law. ये इन्होंने अपना NGTP जो भी है इन्होंने अपना एक टर्म बना लिया है. But on what basis they are saying non-genuine? Because उसका registration cancel हो गया, because वो tax time पे नहीं भरा, या because उसकी ITC गलत है. All these cannot declare a person as a non-genuine taxpayer. This is not a term which is acceptable or which is recognized in law, in GST law, and therefore all these notices which are issued merely on the basis of a non-genuine taxpayer as an allegation may not survive at a higher forum. आप फैक्चुअली जब आगे जाएंगे एडजुडिकेशन लेवल पे मे बी आपका कंफर्म हो जाएगा, मे बी फर्स्ट अपीलेट लेवल आल्सो विल नॉट एंटरटेन दिस, बट यस सेकंड अपीलेट लेवल व्हेन इट विल गो टू ट्राइब्यूनल, देन सर्टेनली इफ द रजिस्ट्रेशन वाज वैलिड, if you are able to substantiate that you have received the goods, if all these documents are there, जैसे शेफाली मैम ने बोला फ्रॉडस्टर के केस में सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स होते हैं, तो they will come out very easily. जेन्युइन लोग जो है वो बेचारे नहीं आ पाएंगे क्योंकि उन्होंने शायद उतने डॉक्यूमेंट्स भी रखे होंगे.
सोचा ही नहीं होगा उन्होंने इस बारे में.
विशाल भाई, ट्रस्ट मी, आई हैव कम अक्रॉस सर्टेन एग्जांपल्स वेयरइन इवन फास्ट ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड्स भी आपको मिलेगा. वो फर्जी इनवॉइस लिया होगा लेकिन फिर भी फास्ट ट्रैक का पूरा रिकॉर्ड आपको मूवमेंट मिलेगा क्योंकि खाली ट्रक आता है. 100 रुपए की जगह उसमें 1 रुपए का सामान रख के बेच देते हैं पूरा भरा हुआ ट्रक. Who is going to go and examine the goods in the truck unless it is intercepted? In 95%, 99% of the cases, the goods are not being intercepted. It is only 1% of the trucks which are getting intercepted and checked. And वो चेक करेगा भी तो किसको मालूम पड़ेगा कपड़ा है, वो कपड़ा 1 रुपए वाली मीटर का है कि 1000 रुपए मीटर का है. Nobody can point out that. Nobody can identify. And plus GST is very clear. Value of supply. It is very clear. Transaction value. मैं हो सकता है कि वो 1 रुपए में बेचता हूँ प्रमोद जी को क्योंकि मेरे फ्रेंड है, लेकिन वही हो सकता है कि मैं 1000 रुपए में बेचता हूँ मिस्टर एक्स को क्योंकि वो मेरा कस्टमर है. यू कैन नॉट से कि आपने प्रमोद जी को 1 रुपए में क्यों दिया और मिस्टर एक्स को 1000 में क्यों दिया. So therefore, the transaction or the amount or the valuation can never be challenged by an intercepting officer. It can only be challenged by the adjudicating authority. If at all it has to be challenged. तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि all these are factual things, and जो factual disputes है, going to high court may not help unless you are challenging 16(2)(c). You are saying कि भैया वो तो था, या 16(2)(b) that I have received the goods. Even after receiving the goods, look at my records. मेरे पास सारे एंट्रीज हैं. जब मेरे पास गुड्स है उसकी एंट्री है, ट्रक की एंट्री है. I have all the entries done. So therefore 16(2)(b) is bad. कि even after receiving the goods, merely because you are making an allegation that the person does not exist, will not taint my input tax credit. It is not a tainted transaction. So it is factual. I will not be in a position to give a straight jacket formula as per my understanding. But yes, मेरा ये मानना है कि time will tell. But most of these cases are going to be released or relieved at a later point in time. कोई भी department survive नहीं कर पाएगा इन सब allegations को, because they have never done the investigation which they were supposed to do. उन्होंने तो सब ऊपर ऊपर से काम किया है. किसी को पकड़ लिया है, किसी 3 लोगों से पढ़ करके स्टेटमेंट लिखवा लिया है और उसको नोटिस भेज दिया है, कंफर्म कर दिया. दिस इज व्हाट दे हैव डन. दे हैव नेवर मेड अ गुड केस आउट ऑफ इट. सो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि शायद इसमें ज्यादा केसेस सर्वाइव नहीं होते, अनलेस कि कोई ऐसा केस हो कि उसकी परचेज ही नहीं है और उसने क्रेडिट ले रखी है. ऐसे भी बहुत सारे केसेस हैं जहाँ पे 5 डिफरेंट चेन है, ए बी सी डी ई. बी इज देयर, सी इज देयर, डी इज देयर, लेकिन बी की परचेज जो ए से इज नॉट देयर. ए की कोई परचेज ही नहीं है. सो उन ट्रांजेक्शंस पे जरूर इसका इम्पैक्ट आएगा पेनल्टी का, बट आईटी का इम्पैक्ट आई डोंट थिंक इट विल सर्वाइव. You can recover from only one person. You cannot keep on recovering from everyone.
Great. So we have completed all the questions. If there are any
there is one question
questions.
on
Yes.
One is the comment, I think that is fine. What are the action or procedure or step of department before issuing SCN under section 74, and how they assume fraud or willful misstatement?
I think we have discussed this at length.
Yeah. Unless there is some specific question you want to ask. And there is one more just now. Statement recorded under section 70 and no cross-examination given. An order confirmed of huge liability after replying to SCN and saying in order that you did not appear for hearing, hence ex parte order without cross driver statements. They confirm demand, neither supplier accepted nor buyer. Basically, they are saying just because it did not appear before them, they issued an ex parte order and they did not take into consideration the reply given to the SCN and also what was the truck driver statements.
So what is the question? ये तो एक instance हुआ. What is the question?
Rahul ji, maybe you can raise your hand, we'll unmute you. That you can ask your question. Rahul. I'll unmute you, Rahul ji. Can you raise your question? Yeah. Rahul ji, you can speak now. Not sure. Cannot hear you. Okay, maybe we go to the next one. If the period of notice is 2018-19 and the same notice has been issued under section 74 after 15/8/2020 without issuing pre-intimation of DRC 01A, then in such case notice is valid or not? If the period of notice is 18-19 and same is issued under section 74 after 15th August 2020.
There is a judgment. मेरे हिसाब से तो it was earlier also it was mandatory and now also it is mandatory even after the amendment. But even otherwise there is a judgment of Andhra Pradesh High Court wherein this issue has been dealt with. और वहां पे यही बोला है कि जो पहले का पीरियड भी अगर उस नोटिस में कवर्ड है एंड उस पीरियड का अगर वन नहीं दिया है, then they have quashed the order and they have asked the authorities to initiate the fresh proceedings. So as per me, the notice is invalid in both the cases.
Right.
Okay. GST refund rejected, appeal filed after 120 days of order. Can appeal get admitted? I think it's just different subject.
There is no
but-
solution.
Yeah.
You missed the bus, sir.
Yeah.
अभी वेट करिए कोई एमनेस्टी स्कीम आएगा जैसे पहले आया था तो आपका अपील शायद एडमिट हो जाएगा अदरवाइज नहीं और अदरवाइज फिर यू विल हैव टू गो इनटू द फैक्ट्स ऑफ द केस लेट्स से इफ दे हैव ओनली अपलोडेड द ऑर्डर
कोई
दे हैव नॉट सर्व्ड इट सो इन ऑल दिस केसेस जहां पे आपको प्रॉपर्ली सर्व नहीं हुआ या फिर आपको हियरिंग नहीं दिया गया अगर ऐसा कोई केस है देन सर्टेनली यू कैन गो टू द हाई कोर्ट एंड गेट इट क्वाश्ड द शो कॉज एंड द ऑर्डर एंड देन यू कैन गेट रिड ऑफ दिस problem of this 120 days or the expiry of the limitation. Otherwise, if everything was followed by the department, then I'm afraid you are losing the or you are missing the bus because of the Glaxo India Smith and Riddhi Siddhi industry or Siddhi Vinayak industry of Gujarat High Court, larger bench, and Glaxo India is of Supreme Court, which says that कि अगर आप अपील नहीं फाइल करेंगे within time limit, so it cannot be condoned by anyone. Rather, even the courts cannot condone.
Okay, I think Rahul ji is now speaking. Rahul ji,
Hello.
Please.
Sir,
Yes,
can you
yes,
hear
Rahul.
me?
Yes.
Sir, recently we filed a writ challenging a show cause notice in the MP High Court. That department was saying that it's a circular trading and SCN was issued to us, and the judgment came against us that two parties cannot be singled out from the SCN and we cannot give benefit to two persons. So on the same date, other four parties also filed a writ to the High Court, and the SCN is just purely based that the truck drivers have not accepted. Out of 20 truck drivers, they took 4th statement and 16 were not appeared before the authority. They have confirmed a humongous demand and served the order to us. Now, what is like the position? What we should do is like, should we file a new order challenging and no cross examination, because other four parties haven't filed a reply and we have filed a reply to the show cause notice. So they haven't allowed any of the cross to any of the persons. No DRC01A was served. Even the DIN on the search warrant, which we challenge that the DIN is not correct on the INS01. We have written everything, but they have not accepted anything, and circular 171 not followed. Everything they are again and confirmed tax liability on each of the persons of whole with interest and penalty.
But the question is, you already went to this MB High Court, and the High Court has dismissed your petition.
So should we challenge the order against, sir, or should we, like, the other party's hearing is still left?
Certainly you can do that, but issue is whether the High Court will admit it or not. Because if the High Court will come to know that you had already challenged it earlier, but I believe you would have challenged show cause notice. So
Right.
after receipt of the order, you can also have a different cause of action. You can certainly challenge it before the MP High Court as a fresh petition, and you can mention about the old petition also. And at the same time, you can also challenge this question that DRC1A was not issued. Maybe on that basis, you can get it passed and the proceedings can be.
Because certainly going to an appeal would be a big amount to deposit, sir, because the other four parties are not in a position. So, like, what is the next course of actions?
There is no next course of action, sir. Either you will have to go to the High Court, get it quashed, or you will have to file an appeal, or you will have to let the order reach finality. Nothing else. These are the only options. Otherwise, you are remedialist totally.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
okay. Few more questions have come. Our SSC has
एक
received.
कोई comment है अविनाश जी, if can comment on this. मोहित जी का एक है. I think I have already
answered. You
I
have
have
already
already
answered.
finished my views.
Yeah.
It is good that you are countering with the view of Vishal bhai, but I have a different view. I already said. But yes, अगर मेरे को आप केस देंगे तो मैं विशाल भाई की आर्गुमेंट को कोर्ट में रख सकता हूँ, and I'll try to canvas those arguments and try to convince the court. Or if not convince, then confuse the court and get an order. बट मेरा अगर मुझसे आप पूछेंगे तो अगर आपने कोई गलती की है और लॉ रेमेडियलिस्ट नहीं हो सकता कि वो रिकवर नहीं कर सके, and there is only one section of 74 provided it is the officer is in a position to prove that there was a malafide. If he is able to do that, then certainly he can recover. This is my view.
Yeah.
Merely because it has taken the shape of IT, you cannot say now this is not tax.
Okay. Will we take more questions or?
We have time till 8:30. We have.
Okay.
Let me announce one thing, Pramodji, with your permission.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead,
Tomorrow
sir.
is a budget day. So ये जितने queries हैं शायद इन queries में से कुछ address हो जाए कल indirect tax में. हालांकि उम्मीद तो कम है. And most of us have left the, I would say, ummid with this particular set of the people. But anyways, we will be organizing a budget session both on direct tax and indirect tax. There will be multiple sessions that we are planning. First will be on Sunday. Sunday को first half में maybe from 10 a.m. onwards, 10 to 1 or 10 to 12:30, maybe we'll keep a direct tax and indirect tax. Both income tax भी रखेंगे and indirect tax भी रखेंगे. And then on Tuesday at 6 p.m., Advocate CA Kapil Goyal will be joining us for direct taxes, and for indirect tax we are speaking to a couple of people who can join us and deliberate their views. Because budget पे multiple views रहेंगे, so we can have good discussion on that. So that is an announcement. I request each one of you to please join our budget session. The immediate budget session will be coming on Sunday from 10 a.m. onwards, and subsequent session will be on Tuesday from 6 p.m. onwards. This is what we have planned up till now. Let's see. We'll announce it by the end of the day or maybe tomorrow. Yes.
Thank you, sir. One question is from Umesh Jhawarji. Our SSC has received material from supplier who has expired. His son has continued the business and GST number even after death of his father. He paid all taxes and filed the return. Now department is denying GST, alleging it is a fake since supplier is dead. So again, Umesh ji, what is the question? We don't know whether it is.
No, obviously department cannot do this.
Yeah.
Merely because the supplier has expired, they cannot say he was non-existent.
Correct, because
they will have to bring out something on record to say that this was a tainted transaction, this was not a genuine transaction. So मेरे हिसाब से तो this is a point to be contested. Department cannot outrightly say कि वो अब नहीं है इसलिए ऐसा होगा.
Right.
Umesh ji is one of our partners of Aurangabad and Jalna. So मेरे हिसाब से this is not right. This cannot be done. Merely because और जो query था उसमें शायद ये भी है कि GST number is same.
Yeah, same number.
So that means it is not a proprietorship firm. It may be a partnership or maybe a private limited company. So वहाँ पे तो वैसे भी going concern का concept है. अगर proprietorship होता तो I would have said कि हाँ ठीक है, Mr. X has expired, Mr. Y का उनका PAN number अलग रहेगा. But अगर company या partnership firm है तो it may continue even after the expiry of the partner. Where is the question of non-existence?
Yeah.
विशाल भाई, शिवाली मैम अगर आपको कुछ ऐड करना हो तो
I concur to this particular point because in fact what you had mentioned, even one of your previous pointers, that there is no concept in the law of NGTP, and many of these concepts like fake invoicing, NGTP has been coined by the department itself. And yes, there is no scope of saying that the supplier is not existing in this particular case. So I also believe the same.
And I think even after death, the legal heirs can continue to do their business, right? So
exactly.
And
Pramod, when you said that the GST number is same, it may be even because of the succession of the firm from the father to the son. That may also be the reason why the GST number is same.
Right.
It's not non-existent. Department people should understand it. Non-existent का मतलब वो है ही नहीं.
Correct. And he's filing return, he's paying all the taxes.
Non-existent कैसे है? Business is continued.
Yep.
लेकिन मैम ये कर रहे हैं ना, ये कोविड में बहुत सारे लोग चले गए तो इन्होंने सब में ये कह दिया है कि ये सब नॉन रेसिडेंट नॉन जेन्युइन पर्संस है, कोई थे ही नहीं, कभी नॉन एग्जिस्टिंग है. तो भाई ऊपर जाके पता कर लो, ऑफिसर्स को ऊपर भेज के पता करो कि वो था या नहीं था. तो दीज एलिगेशंस आप 3 साल के बाद 5 साल के बाद जाग के आओगे, तब तक वो आदमी ऊपर चला गया तो आप सस्टेन थोड़ी कर पाओगे. इट इज नॉट सस्टेनेबल. दीज आर्गुमेंट्स मे नॉट सर्वाइव बिकॉज जो बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ है डिस्चार्ज कैसे करेगा वो? He will have to show something on paper that he was non-existent. Therefore, the credit is wrong. जबकि वो तो कंटिन्यू कर रहा है अभी बिजनेस। आप पहले उसके अंदर अगेंस्ट में एक्शन लो, या तो शायद उनको पता नहीं होगा कि एक्शन किसके अगेंस्ट में लेना है, तो उनको ये फोरम में अपन बता देते हैं। With due respect, many officers also might have joined this forum. They might be on YouTube also. So it's a request कि अगर ऐसा कोई डेथ का केस है, तो you should not issue a notice in the case of the person who is deceased. You should issue the notice in the name of the legal hire of that person.
Yeah.
क्योंकि अगर आप डिसीज के नाम पे करेंगे तो देर आर एन नंबर ऑफ जजमेंट, आपका ये नोटिस पास हो जाएगा। तो वो भी उमेश जी के क्वेश्चन का एक वो भी आंसर हो सकता है कि भैया पहले उनके केस में क्या एक्शन लिया, पहले शो अस दैट एक्शन आल्सो। जो आपका कलकत्ता हाई कोर्ट टाइम एंड अगेन बोलता है, आपका वो डीवाई बिट्टल बोलता है कि पहले उनके अगेंस्ट में तो एक्शन लीजिए, फिर आप बताइए हमें। इफ दैट इज नॉट द केस, देन सर्टेनली नथिंग कैन बी डन। डिपार्टमेंट आपके अगेंस्ट में नहीं कर सकता, और बाकी डिपार्टमेंट कुछ भी कर सकता है।
अविनाश भाई कई बार क्या करते हैं, जैसे किसी का मान लो 10-15 करोड़ का टर्नओवर है, एंड दे विल गो टू देयर प्लेसेस एंड दे विल से कि अच्छा आपके पास तो इतनी गुड्स रखने के लिए जगह ही नहीं है, सो यू आर नॉन एग्जिस्टेंट, एक्चुअली में आप बिजनेस कर ही नहीं है, यू आर जस्ट इशूइंग द इनवॉइसेस। तो वो ये दे डोंट हैव बिजनेस सेंस, तो वो तो किसी भी रीजन से नॉन एग्जिस्टेंट बोल सकते हैं।
Right. Next question. OIO issued multiple years, but DRC 07 summary order issued only one wrong financial year, as per section 74. Also, ADT 02 issued and reply done, but DRC 01A not issued, only DRC 01 issued for multiple financial years, single SCN, reply not done.
ये भी डिबेट कर रहे हैं सर, दिस क्वेरी आल्सो इज बिफोर द कोर्ट्स। मल्टीपल इयर्स का एक शोकॉज आ सकता है कि नहीं आ सकता। प्राइमा फेसी द व्यू ऑफ द कोर्ट, डिवीजन बेंच ऑफ द कोर्ट्स इज दैट दीज आर द टेक्निकल इश्यूज दैट यू आर ट्राइंग टू रेज। अदरवाइज आ सकता है, ऐसा कुछ लिमिटेशन नहीं है, प्रोवाइडेड ऑल द इयर्स आर विद इन द लिमिटेशन। बिकॉज टाइटन कंपनी का जो जजमेंट अगर आप उसको भी देखेंगे तो वो भी केवल स्पेसिफिकली यही बोलता है कि अगर कोई एक पीरियड लिमिटेशन में नहीं है और फिर आपने बंच करके दिया है, दैट इज रॉन्ग। अदरवाइज बंचिंग एज सच लॉ में के रिस्ट्रिक्टेड नहीं है, एट द सेम टाइम परमिटेड भी नहीं है। तो मैं अगर 70, अगर मुझे आर्ग्यू करना हो कि ये नहीं हो सकता, तो आई विल, बिकॉज रिसेंटली आई हैव डन सम रिसर्च ऑन दिस, आई विल गो टू 7410 after 74.9. 74.9 says order has to be passed, and 74.10 says order for each financial year has to be passed within 5 years or within 3 years from the due date of filing of annual return for each financial year. So therefore I will borrow that logic and I will say कि आपको हर फाइनेंशियल ईयर के लिए शो कॉज नोटिस का टाइम लिमिट सेपरेट है, तो यू शुड इशू अ सेपरेट शो कॉज नोटिस फॉर ईच ऑफ द इयर्स, बट दैट मे नॉट सर्वाइव एट द हायर फोरम। मुझे लगता नहीं कि आर्गुमेंट ज्यादा सर्वाइव कर पाएगा, बिकॉज ये हाइपर टेक्निकल आर्गुमेंट है। बट यस, डीआरसी 1A का आर्गुमेंट यू कैन सर्टेनली टेक।
Okay. Next question is on, I think this NGPT supplier from Mahendra Jainji says, my dealer is a gold dealer. He purchased the bullion from a company which was registered at that time. We have invoice copy and made payment through bank. We have maintained stock register and whom my dealer sold the goods. All are genuine. Supplier has filed 3B and GSTR 1. But afterwards, department cancelled the supplier. As a result, our supply became non-genuine. Further, in case of bullion, e-way bill is not applicable, so it is difficult to prove delivery now. Now the supplier is not traceable. My question is how to tackle as this matter is in appeal. And I'll probably unmute Mahendra Jainji.
So I think let's not cogit ad impossibilia is what you can plead, कि आपका कंट्रोल आपके सप्लायर पे तो हो नहीं सकता है, अभी सप्लायर आपका है नहीं है। whatever documents and evidences you have, you simply plead those facts and maybe at a higher forum आप ट्रिब्यूनल लेवल पे आपको रिलीफ मिल जाएगा। if you are able to sustain and substantiate कि आपके पास गुड्स आए थे और वो कहाँ गए थे, if their entire chain you can show, then certainly you can, merely because now the supplier is not being found, I don't think that they will be able to sustain their show cause notice to a large extent. So
Hello.
Yes, Mahendra ji.
Yeah. So what happened? Even department audit also happened. They also don't follow any endpoint. Just similarly the water they receive, they added same point in audit. Other than this, all points are clear. Only this non-genuine, they added IDG in a so-called notice. And further, this purchase from these dealers are only 7 to 8% out of total purchase. And our
So therefore all these questions are factual questions.
Yes. Right.
तो certainly अपील में अगर आप दिखाएंगे कि आपके परचेज जो है वो ये आपका डेटा है, this is the stock which has been added, this is how the stock has moved further, and on which the tax has been discharged. So if they are not disputing, if they are not rejecting your books of accounts, if they are not disputing your outward supplies, then certainly they will have to accept the inward supplies also.
In audit, they have not doubted about any books of, because they check for 5-6 years.
You have a good case. If it is a genuine situation, you have a good case. और मेरे हिसाब से आप अपील फाइल करिए, सेकंड अपील में आपको मिल जाएगा।
I think we have couple of hands ready. Yash Panchalji has been raising hands.
तो एक काम कर सकते हैं, because we 8:28 हो गया, we have 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So what we can do is we can note down the other queries.
Yeah.
We can take up in the next session.
Sure.
जो अपना फेक इनवॉइस या जो भी हम कंटिन्यू करेंगे नेक्स्ट फोर्टनाइट पे, उसमें ले सकते हैं। एंड इन द मीनवाइल जिन लोगों ने हैंड रेज किया उनसे पूछ सकते हैं कि व्हाट दे हैव टू शेयर।
I think only one person is remaining, Yash Panchal. So I'll unmute him.
तो यश भाई को बोलिए। Somebody can take the copy of these questions so that next time हमें।
Yash bhai, can you speak?
सर माय क्वेश्चन इज ASMT 10 मेरे को मिला था, उसके अंदर जो पॉइंट निकाले थे वो हमने ऑफिसर को प्रॉपरली क्लियरली उनको सेटिस्फाई करवा दिया। उसके बाद उन्होंने ASMT 10 इश्यू किया, उसके बाद ASMT 12 ऑर्डर हमको मिल गया। उसके बाद उसने DRC 01A दिया, उसमें ASMT 10 के ही पॉइंट्स थे एंड अदर्स पॉइंट्स आर कवर्ड। तो इट इज अ वैलिड कॉमन पॉइंट्स आर कंटिन्यू टू।
विशाल भाई कैन टेक अप।
सॉरी, आप बोलिए, मेरा आई एम हैविंग सम थ्रोट प्रॉब्लम।
अच्छा, ओके 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 ओके। शेफाली मैम, आप लेना चाहेंगे?
क्वेश्चन आप
इनका
रिपीट कर।
इनका छोटा सा क्वेरी है कि इनके ASMT 10 आया पहले, लेट से 5 इश्यूज पे आया, वो पांचों इशू पे इन्होंने सेटल कर दिया, ऑफिसर को कन्विंस कर दिया। ASMT 12 आ गया, दैट मींस इट इज सेटल्ड डाउन। उसके बाद DRC 1A आ गया जिसमें 7 इशू लिखे हुए थे, वो 5 भी लिखे हुए थे जो ASMT 10 में थे और 2 और लिखे हुए थे। एम आई करेक्ट यश भाई?
यस सर, यस सर।
सो क्या वो सस्टेनेबल है? दिस इज द क्वेरी।
I don't think so.
और also officers are issued DRC 01।
मेरे हिसाब से थी। यस शेफाली मैम प्लीज।
DRC 01 आपको उन्होंने सेक्शन 73 के हिसाब से इशू किया।
यस सर, यस मैडम।
So 61 is actually मतलब आपका 61 में पहले क्या होगा ना, उन्होंने स्क्रूटनी में।
यस यस मैडम।
So scrutiny is kind of assessment, but it's not adjudication. It's one of the form of assessment, but it's not adjudication in my view.
नहीं, बट क्या हो ना शेफाली मैम, क्या होता है, जैसे 5 इशू रेज किए,
जी।
मैंने ASMT 11 में आंसर दिया। ASMT 11 में आंसर देने के बाद अगर वो सेटिस्फाइड है तो वो ASMT 12 इशू करेंगे। अगर वो सेटिस्फाइड नहीं है तो दे विल इशू 73 और 74।
राइट सर।
दिस इज द प्रोसेस एज पर मी। सो
Yes,
इन्होंने
sir.
क्या किया, ASMT 12 दे दिया, दैट मींस दे वर सेटिस्फाइड विद ऑल दोस पॉइंट्स। नाउ लेटर पॉइंट इन टाइम DRC 1A भी दे दिया, वो उसमें वो 5 पॉइंट भी दे दिया। तो मेरे हिसाब से दिस इज नॉट राइट, दिस कैन नॉट बी डन। सो देयरफॉर आपका आंसर, ऑब्वियसली आई एम वेरी श्योर कि आपने वही आंसर लिखा होगा कि आप you can simply place on record ASMT 12 saying that these 5 issues were covered in ASMT 10 and this is ASMT 12 wherein all was dropped. So therefore kindly drop all this on account of this ASMT 12 and rest of the जो 2 issues थे, you can make a reply for those 2 issues.
सर आई हैव
Because
वन पॉइंट। सर क्या हम उसके अंदर जजमेंट डाल सकते हैं? कोई ऐसे आपके ध्यान में कोई ऐसे हाई कोर्ट
जजमेंट हमारे अगेंस्ट में है सर। जजमेंट हमारे अगेंस्ट में है। अगर जजमेंट क्या क्वेश्चन पे था, जजमेंट ऐसा था कि अगर मेरे पे केवल मेरे रिटर्न्स पे रिलाई करके DRC 1A मुझे दे रहे हैं तो क्या 61 करना कंपलसरी था या नहीं? तो कोर्ट से बोला नहीं, दे कैन डायरेक्टली गो फॉर 73 और 74। सो सर्टनली आपके फेवर में क्या है कि आपका ASMT 10 का प्रोसेस ऑलरेडी हो गया है, वो प्रोसेस पे ऑलरेडी आपका डिमांड ड्रॉप हो गया है। सो देयरफॉर यू कैन प्लेस ऑन रिकॉर्ड दैट कि ऑलरेडी आपने ये कर दिया है, तो अगेन फॉर द सेम इशू यू कैन नॉट इशू अ शो कॉज नोटिस because that was already dropped by your authorities in ASMT 12, but for rest of the issues you will have to defend yourself.
Sir, I have a 3 High Court judgment.
हाँ,
तो उसमें उन्होंने बोला है एक एक जजमेंट शायद ऐसा है कि डायरेक्ट 74 का आप नोटिस नहीं दे सकते, एसएमटी 12 आ गया है तो आप सीधा 74 का नोटिस नहीं दे सकते। एंड एक जजमेंट ऐसा है राजस्थान हाई कोर्ट का है, उसमें सेम केस है, मेरा फिट
तो
हो
आपको
जाता है कि
74 का नोटिस दिया है, 73 का दिया है?
एक्चुअली मेरा 73 का है, बट नोटिस तो एग्री कि नोटिस डिफरेंट है 73 74, बट राजस्थान हाईकोर्ट का एक जजमेंट है उसमें उन्होंने सेम केस मेरा फिट हो जाता है, एसएफटी 10 आया, उसके बाद 12 ड्रॉप हो गया।
आप कहाँ हो? आप गुजरात में हो? कहाँ हो? राजस्थान में हो?
हाँ सर, मैं गुजरात में हूँ सर।
गुजरात में हो। तो मैं एक सिंपल सा आंसर देता हूँ जो मैंने हमेशा हर बार रिपीटेडली बोला है कि ये रिट है। दिस इज अ रिट रेमेडी। आर्टिकल 226 में आप उसका बाइंडिंग प्रेसिडेंस नहीं बोल सकते हो, यू कैन टेक रेफरेंस। तो आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो ऑर्डर राजस्थान का है या जो भी आपका है, यू कैन सर्टनली कोट दोस ऑर्डर्स। और आप बोल सकते हो कि द प्रोसेस वाज रॉन्ग, द प्रोसेस व्हिच यू हैव अडॉप्टेड इज रॉन्ग। बट अगर आपको ये सही में प्लीड करना है, देन यू विल हैव टू फाइल अ सेपरेट रिट इन योर jurisdictional court
ओके
and
ओके
get a similar kind of order. Till the
ओके
time that order is not there with you, you can only take a referential value of those judgments and you can request the officer to drop it. Otherwise, all these judgments will not be in a position to help you.
ओके ओके, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
अविनाश भाई, एक क्वेश्चन मेरा है, बाकी सबके आप क्वेश्चंस ले लो, मेरे को भी एक क्वेश्चन पूछना है आज। टुडे वी हैव अ जजमेंट ऑफ शिबा निर्माण कंपनी एंड हम लोग लास्ट सेशन में हम लोगों ने बात की थी, जो एक्सप्लेनेशन नंबर 2 है जो उन्होंने 74 में बीच में डिलीट कर दिया, 74A में वापस है कि अगर आपने कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन विच यू आर सपोज टू प्रोवाइड वो आपने नहीं दिया तो आपको माना जा सकता है कि इट्स अ सप्रेशन ऑफ फैक्ट्स। तो जनरली हम नहीं सोचते कि हमने अगर रिटर्न नहीं फाइल किया है तो सप्रेशन ऑफ फैक्ट्स में आ सकता है, बट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर जजमेंट कोर्ट ने कहा कि आप रिटर्न नहीं फाइल कर रहे थे तो इसका मतलब यू इंटेंशनली वांटेड टू एवेड द टैक्स। उन्होंने बोला कि भाई मैंने तो इसलिए नहीं किया क्योंकि मेरे सप्लायर से पैसे नहीं आए थे, तो आई वाज नॉट हैविंग द मनी। तो उन्होंने फिर अकाउंट्स चेक किया एंड दे सेड कि नहीं उतना उसने पे किया था कि आप टैक्स पे कर सकते थे। सो क्या इसका कोई वाइड स्प्रेड भी हो सकता है कि जो लोग इंटेंशनली रिटर्न नहीं फाइल कर रहे हैं काफी काफी टाइम
मैडम,
तक, अच्छा का जैसे
मैं
3
आपको
महीने हो गया।
एक एग्जांपल शेयर कर सकता हूँ जो गुजरात हाईकोर्ट का लास्ट वीक का है। मेरे एक फ्रेंड है, कलीग है, उन्होंने आर्ग्यू किया था।
जी
उनके ऊपर 74 का एलिगेशन लगा था। उन्होंने डीआरसी 0 ये जीएसटीआर 1 में लेट से 1 करोड़ रुपए का लाइबिलिटी दिखा दिया था। बिकॉज उनकी कलेक्शन नहीं आ रही थी या जो भी उनके फाइनेंशियल इश्यूज थे, उन्होंने 3B में 90 लाख रुपए का भर दिया, 10 लाख रुपए का नहीं भरा। तो उनका ऑर्डर आ गया 74 में उनके अगेंस्ट में। तो उनका ऐसा कहना था कि मैंने सिर्फ 70 जीएसटीआर 1 में तो दिखा दिया है, तो वेयर इज द क्वेश्चन ऑफ इवेजन ऑफ टैक्स? इवेजन ऑफ टैक्स इज नॉट अ क्वेश्चन। तो 74 तो नहीं लग सकता, 73 लगेगा। तो उसमें हाईकोर्ट, गुजरात हाईकोर्ट का ये व्यू था, ऑल्दो फाइनली ये विड्रॉ हुआ, बट गुजरात हाईकोर्ट हैज टेकन अ व्यू कि वो जो 10 लाख रुपए था आपने कलेक्ट करने के बाद आपने किसी दूसरे पर्पज में उसको यूज कर लिया। व्हाट इज दिस? बिकॉज यू आर एक्टिंग एज एन एजेंट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, यू आर कलेक्टिंग ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ एन एजेंट, बिहाफ ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट। सो देयरफॉर उसको डिविएट करने का आपके पास कोई राइट नहीं है। इफ यू आर डिविएटिंग इट, देन आपने जीएसटीआर 1 में दिखाया था ताकि आपके कस्टमर्स क्रेडिट ले लें। आपने 3B में कम इसलिए दिखाया क्योंकि आप भरना नहीं चाहते थे वो पैसा, उस वक्त आप किसी दूसरी जगह पे यूज करना चाहते थे, which is not permissible and therefore 74 is rightly invoked.
ओके
So आपका केस तो फिर भी बहुत खराब था जो आपने केस दिया। ये
मुझे
केस
नहीं
तो
पता।
अच्छा था, उसने 3B भी भरा और 1 में पूरी लाइबिलिटी दिखाई। बट देन ऑल्सो कोर्ट हैज सेड कि नहीं नहीं 74 इसमें इन्वोक हो सकता है बिकॉज यू हैव ट्राइड टू व्हाट आई कैन से नॉट पे द टैक्स at the right point in time when you have recovered the tax already.
और अगर पेमेंट सच में नहीं आया होता मुझे पीछे से तो क्या मुझे कुछ बेनिफिट मिल सकता था इस चीज का भी? एक्चुअली में
आप
अगर
फाइट कर सकते हो लेकिन रेड कोर्ट में नहीं। आप अपने अपील्स वगैरह में जा सकते हो, अपील में फाइट कर सकते हो। रेड कोर्ट इसमें हेल्प नहीं करेगा। ये मेनली अभी जो इश्यूज आ रहे हैं ये सब 128A के रिलीफ के लिए आ रहे हैं, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्योंकि 128A के रिलीफ के लिए अगर 74 में नोटिस है तो 75(2) के हिसाब से आपको एडजुडिकेट कराना पड़ेगा कि 73 है कोर्ट में जाके। कोर्ट अगर वो करेगा तो ही आपको 128A का मिलेगा रिलीफ, अदरवाइज नहीं मिलेगा। तो ये सारे जितना भी गेम चल रहा है उसके लिए चल रहा है। प्रमोद जी, लेट्स कंक्लूड एंड मेरे ख्याल से ये क्वेश्चंस आप अपने ले लेते हैं so that we can take it
Yeah,
up
I
next.
saved the question, so we'll consider it in next session. So, on behalf of First Law Legal, I certainly thank you everyone for joining this session. As announced by Avinash, will be hosting a session on budget on Sunday around 10 a.m. and Tuesday on 6 p.m., inviting some prominent speakers. So request everyone to join that session as well, and we continue to remain in touch. Thank you, and wish you everyone a good night. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thank,
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thank you.
thank you.